Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Brunch with Books. And today we are continuing with our previous book, that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen and Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. So let's see what are we discussing today from Dr. Geeta. Over to you, and please begin with the continuation of this story.
Hi everyone. Imagine a world where a single sentence describes that society's worldview. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. So, this story, set in the sophisticated, gossip filled society of Regency England, Pride and Prejudice novel follows the sharp minded, independent Elizabeth Bennet and the proud, enigmatic Fitzwilliam Darcy. What begins with misunderstandings, wounded pride, and social expectations unfolds into one of literature's most beloved love stories. With humor, irony, and unforgettable characters, Jane Austen brilliantly explores family, class, reputation, and the courage it takes to challenge one's own prejudices. Over 2 centuries later, Pride and Prejudice still charms readers with its intelligence, wit, and timeless insight into human nature. So, today, let's step into ballrooms, country estates, and drawing rooms and rediscover why this classic continues to capture hearts around the world. So, as we follow the story, we observe that Elizabeth sees Darcy differently. Her prejudice has softened. His pride has cracked. Just when love is possible, disaster strikes. So, how did that happen? So, Lydia Bennet, Elizabeth's younger sister, elopes with George Wickham. In 19th century England, this is ruin. If Lydia is dishonored, there is no future for every Bennet sister. Elizabeth is devastated, not just for her sister Lydia, but also for Jane and for herself too. She knows if Darcy hears of this scandal, any hope between them is gone, and he won't allow Jane and Bingley also to come together. But Darcy acts silently. Without telling Elizabeth, he searches for Lydia. He finds Wickham. He pays off Wickham's debts, negotiates his marriage with Lydia, and restores the family's reputation. He expects no praise, no applause, or reward. This is not the proud man from the first ball. Darcy acts with humility, courage, and protects the very family he once looked down upon. And Elizabeth learns of this truth only later. And in that moment, when she learns of the truth, her heart shifts completely because real love is this doing the right thing when no one is watching. So, my question to you all viewers, have you ever had this kind of experience in your life or heard of it happening to somebody else? That is when you have misjudged someone only to discover that their quiet actions revealed a deeper character? And even more courageously, have you allowed yourself to forgive after being disappointed? I invite Dr. Siddharth to share his reflections on this topic. Over to you, Dr. Siddharth.
Wow. Uh, there is a always a saying that love is much bigger than uh, hatred, or how you understand the betrayal you get. If you can actually love somebody deeply, then betrayal doesn't matter. Because there are always perspectives around why somebody betrayed you. So I will share something very personal here, a story from my past where I was helping um, kind of a relation which was already torn because of some misunderstandings. And a dear friend of mine was going through a very hard time because she had a love marriage, and her love marriage was also a very strenuous one because they had got outcasted by their own families. So she had nobody else but her husband and her who had to maintain this relation. But then somehow her husband had some kind of doubts on her, and she was not able to cope up with those doubts. When this happened, I was the closest person to her who could and she could share it with me, and I was trying to help her understand that maybe it is some kind of misunderstanding which is going on between you and your husband. She was not at all in that emotional level balanced personality she typically was. She was not in that emotional level to understand these challenges, and she continuously wept. She was crying day in, day out about the misunderstandings which are going on. And she was repenting on this decision to get into this relationship, which was against her parents. But when I spoke to her, there was something which was clear that she loved her husband very much. And I was continuously helping her to be in that belief that, he will understand her better. Now, somehow what happened is her husband started doubting about me and her relationship. That was a very tricky thing. I was trying to help her as a friend, but her husband started doubting that we had a relationship, which was not true at all. And then when I spoke to, tried to speak to uh, her husband just told me that, you should not come between us. That was the first time I understood that, maybe I am causing more problem than trying to solve it. So I got to kind of middle ground with him, and we sat on a coffee table, and we were trying to understand what is going wrong. Then I explained him the whole story, why she is feeling so negative about the relationship and what is going in her mind. It was about a very personal story she had witnessed in her childhood, and she was witnessing the same with him because he was into alcoholism. And that changed everything because the moment he understood that, oh, okay, I'm not the villain, but it was his own habit of drinking which was causing so much of problem. That is again when they both reconciled, and when they reconciled, it was like there was a lot of arguments about things, but like I said in the beginning, that love wins over all the hatred in the world always. So if there is a communication done in the proper way, then every problem can be resolved. That is why I keep saying let love live, and it actually helps a lot. So that is my example, trying to explain this scenario, that what can happen if we feel that we are not um, true to somebody, but we have a reason for that. And then if we can explain that reason in a better way, then some of the relations can be resolved over a period of time. So that's my example. Over to you, Shitapa. What's yours?
Very deep and quite resonating. I think with many people, misunderstanding is something common in many relationships. So I will be just explaining this in a different way. So we were in Bokaro, and it was a rented home, and my house owner used to just stay above our flat, and we used to stay. It was a two-story building, so we were staying in one of the apartments below. So my mom was not well. She had pox, and me and my sister, we were twins, and we were 2 years old that time. So when she got to know about it, she knew my mom needs to stay away from us, and we will need some care because we were two people and two children to be managed, and it would be a lot for my dad to single-handedly manage everything. So, and my grandmother was with us, but she is very very old actually, being my father being the fifth son. She's very old, so she cannot always give that much energy and effort what is needed. So what my landlord did, she came. A moment she knew about it, she came and she helped my mom with food. She used to entire day keep both of us in her home so that we are safe. We don't have bugs. She used to take care of our food, bath, everything, just like my mom's mother could have done. And that time we were not knowing her much. We were new to that place. My mom was new to that place, and she didn't knew also that well to speak in Hindi. But the way she took care of us and the way everything happened after that, the bond still remains till now. So the true person, how that person is, you actually get to know when there is a crisis in the family, like who can help you in that situation where the kids are really small and somebody needs to keep them away from mother, and still you get someone motherly who can take care of it end to end. Like so that is what I feel is something which reveals in a crisis situation the true color of a person. So over to you, Sujata.
Thank you, Shritapa, for that lovely story. The selfless love of a friend, but family friend who became like a mother. So that was really good. And here also we see in the story which Dr. Geeta has just narrated how Darcy renders selfless service to Wickham. Lydia has run away, and the family is facing social ruin. Everyone is panicking. Everyone is talking. At that time, Mr. Darcy, he acts selflessly. No announcement, no credit, no emotional monologue. He simply does what needs to be done at that point of time. Brené Brown also helps us understand this moment through one of her chapters, Cultivating Play and Reset. That's chapter 8. She challenges a belief deeply embodied in our culture that busyness equals worth. We've been taught that exhaustion is impressive. We are so tired, we work hard. Uh, but if we are constantly producing, fixing, rescuing, performing, we feel that, yes, we are doing good. But Brown warns us that in this turns even goodness into performance. When we do things to be seen, we are still trying to earn our value. True integrity, she says, doesn't need an audience. In chapter 9, Cultivating Calm and Stillness, Brown makes an important distinction. Anxious people react, grounded people respond. Stillness is not passivity. It is inner steadiness, the ability to act without drama, ego, or the need to control the story. Now let's look again at the novel. Wickham talks. Mrs. Bennet panics loudly. Mr. Collins offers advice nobody asked for, but Darcy, socially awkward, emotionally restrained Darcy, moves quietly and effectively. He finds Wickham, he pays the debts, he ensures the marriage, and he tells no one, not even Elizabeth, not the family, not even the reader, until later. And this is not productivity as performance. This is values in action. Darcy is no longer trying to prove his worth. He's living it. And that's the difference between performing goodness and embodying it. Character is not what we declare in words, it is what we do when no one is watching. Rifts arise in relationships. It's quite common. But still, when the integrity is there, the integrity is there, it is invisible. Then you sort of overcome it. So, with this, I would like to hand over the mic to Jasveer, who will share her perspective, any relatable incident which you would like to share. Over to you, Jasveer.
Thank you, Sujata. Yes, it's very true that character is evident from one's actions, because we have many leaders, many politicians who promise a lot to people, when they are ready for the elections or when they want their votes. But it is very few of them who actually turn those words into actions. And a person's character, true character, is revealed by his actions. And a true hero is one who can silently stand and do things rather than just talk about doing things. So a hero is one who can put his words into actions and not expect anything in return. And one such hero is the actor. He is a Bollywood actor called Sonu Sood. As we all know that the world faced COVID-19 pandemic, and there was a huge lockdown in India. This was in the month of May 2020, when thousands, almost 90,000 migrant workers who had migrated from small villages and they were in towns and cities, cities, and they had to go back home, but there was no mode of transport. And he actually helped these workers by arranging special buses, special trains, and chartered flights for them. I mean, there was no need for him to do this because he was a celebrity, he was comfortable in his life, but he went out of his way, and he didn't even expect any kind of applause or kind of any recognition for this. He silently did this with his own funds. I mean, the government was doing things in its own capacity, but as an individual, as a celebrity, he went out of his way. Then in July 2020, he arranged a chartered flight for 1,500 Indian students who were stuck in Kyrgyzstan, and they flew back to Varanasi. He was a real life hero. He saw a video of a farmer trying to plow a field with a yoke on their shoulders, which is so tragic because they didn't have any kind of help. And he was so moved by it that he donated a tractor to the family. So he was just going out of his way. Some around 101 medical students who were from Tamil Nadu were stranded in Moscow during the lockdown. He arranged a chartered flight to Chennai, all this with his own personal funds. So, this is extraordinary service to humanity without any expectation and without any declaration of what he has been doing. So, he has a charity foundation, and he still continues to do charity. And this is an extraordinary example of service over self and without any expectation of being praised or applause. So yes, this is an example that I'd like to share. And now I'd hand it over to Dr. Geeta to continue with the story of Santiago. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasbir. What a beautiful, the real life story that you have shared. And hats off to this selfless, compassionate man who is like a real life hero who goes out of his way to take care of the people in need. And how soft is his heart. It's so beautiful to listen to it. And thank you for sharing that. So here coming to this story, Elizabeth Bennet learns the truth about Darcy and understands that love and respect is not through grand declarations, but through quiet revelations. And she begins to see Darcy not as proud, distant man she once judged, but as someone capable of deep, silent love. Because real love, after all, is not always spoken. And in that moment, her heart shifts completely. And also, Bingley now returns to propose to Jane, and then Jane, Darcy's aunt, Lady Catherine de Boroughs, she also comes into the scene. She is certain that Elizabeth is unworthy of, Darcy, so she demands of Elizabeth, refuse him when he proposes to you. But Elizabeth calmly says she will decide her own future. So when Darcy proposes again, Elizabeth accepts because she chooses to make her own decision. Both characters are imperfect, of course, but they evolve. And what began as pride and prejudice now ends in growth and disgrace. I mean, grace. And perhaps that is why this story still speaks to us today. We are often told to be strong, to stand tall, to endure. But how often do we ask ourselves, do we allow ourselves to receive love without guilt, without hesitation, without shame, when the person who has done, the betrayal has repented and come back to us? Elizabeth does, and that changes everything. And steady love finds its way back to her. And that is quiet healing, a sense that what is meant for us does not disappear, but simply waits. So Elizabeth does not apologize for who she is. She doesn't, agree with the aunt, the Catherine de Boroughs. Instead, she stands calm, composed, unwavering, and declares that she alone will decide her future. So when Darcy's proposal is given to her, she is no longer weighed down by pride or superiority. And Elizabeth accepts not because she needs him, but because she chooses him. And that is the difference. Elizabeth Bennet does not become flawless, she becomes aware of her own worth, and that awareness changes everything. So, my question to you all viewers, have you ever allowed yourself to be loved, appreciated, liked after disappointment or betrayal? And what would it look like to choose love or liking or appreciation, not from need, but from strength? So, I invite Dr. Siddharth to share his reflection on this topic. Over to you, Dr. Siddharth.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point, Gita, and thanks for bringing it out. That if we are able to accept the imperfection how we have inside us, we can actually forgive the faults if somebody is ready to repent and come back around that. It's a difficult step, though. It's a very difficult step because we are very cautious when we are broken, and when we have got hurt because of somebody's um, words or somebody's actions, then it's very difficult to trust that person again. But when we are bringing that uh, aspect of forgiveness and acceptance of the imperfection of the person, then it is something very miraculous which happens to us, because love, like you said, love waits, and it always there is a right time to express things, and if we understand these things, then definitely the relations can be much better. I personally have an example where I had a close counter with a friend um, who had this thought that somehow I'm going to take away his position while we were in the same level of work, and our relation got kind of bad because we were competing for the same position, and somehow I felt like I am taking away his role, and I felt like he is becoming more competitive. Then the friendship was somehow getting broken that way. So when eventually we both evolved and we grew up in our kind of knowledge and our position. At later point, sometime he had already left the company where I was working, and he had joined somewhere else. And someday when we met, we were and that meeting was like by surprise, because we had a client a discussion going on, and we went to some place, and suddenly I saw him and he saw me, and then we realized that we are in the same place. And I didn't think of maybe there was no ego in me, so I didn't think of that there is a difference, and I just said hi and hi, how are you and all, and we connected again. This small thing of connection happened only because maybe I had forgiven him long back, and in his mind he had forgiven me as well. So when um, we spoke heart to heart and we discussed a lot of things. But then we also discussed about the point where we had broken our relationship, and then we laughed about it, because we at that point, when the breakup had happened, it was more of a petty reason where we had not understood each other well. But now when we had evolved to person and better humans, and I think we were also understanding that these things happen in life. They are not because there was a intention here. Uh, when we spoke in detail, we also laughed out about those. We enjoyed the moments we had, good times with each other, and that moment itself became a kind of a milestone in our life, and the friendship regained again. So what I see is like sometimes because of our maturity levels, we take some wrong steps, or I would say some steps which are not the right ones. But then over a period of time, we understand that these mistakes have happened and we want to get rid of them, or we carry a guilt that this should be resolved. And somehow the universe makes it happen that uh, we resolve those guilts over a period of time. So I feel that is how this meeting happened, and it was a signal from the universe that don't fight over it. We are good friends. Just get together. So I think that is how I look at this example. Over to you, Sitapa, for sharing yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Siddharth. That was so special a bond. Friendship finally found the friends within. So yes, you to bring that point out, and I will give another example of I have a friend. She married to a person who was from an upper community, and his mom and parents rather they didn't accept her as his wife. So when the marriage happened, no one from the guy's family participated in the wedding at all. So it was just the girl's family and the person and his just three friends and his wife. One of them were married and his wife. So four of them were there in the entire marriage. They were in the same town where the marriage was happening. Both the girl and the boy, their hometown is same. They live in the same city. Parents were there, relatives were there, but nobody came on the wedding day, and they decided that they will marry. They tried to convince them for almost a long time. Then when they said that okay, it is not happening, and the girl had some reason for which now marriage should happen, otherwise it is late for her. So understanding the boy didn't give up, he supported her, and so he said, okay, then let's get married, and we will keep on requesting our parents to accept us. So marriage happened, and but after few years it took for his mom to understand she's a good person, and she takes care of the family. And then they started, when the conversation happened gradually, she the mother-in-law realized that okay, she's good for the family, and their bond evolved. And then they started coming home, and she also could go to her in-laws place. And it was a big issue because in the boys home they have Lakshmi puja is Kojagori Lokhi puja, that's what we say in Bengali. That is very important and a very big puja, which in Brahmin family only a Brahmin is supposed to do. But they were hesitant about her doing it. But now the situation has come that everything is so they have accepted her so well that she does the puja. So nothing goes wrong. Everything is all streamlined, well accepted. His mom is no more though, but the family is running as it should because she takes care of it. So this is how misunderstandings it is become so big that the mother doesn't talk to the son for years. And then when the his wife took an initiative to constantly keep a touch with her, somehow she realized okay, she is taking a lot of effort. And then they came together. So so this is how it grows as a relationship, and things became much better now. So over to you, Sujata, for more insight from this.
Thank you, Shritappa. So now we are arriving at the end of this journey of these two books, and also at the end of the journey of becoming. Elizabeth now knows who Darcy truly is. She has faced intimidation, refused to shrink, and when Darcy proposes again, everything is different. The This moment mirrors what Brené Brown talks about in The Gifts of Imperfection. She talks about letting go of a supposed to life, the life shaped by expectations, by experience, appearances, by other people's scripts. She reminds us that meaningful work isn't just about careers, it's about alignment, living in a way that truly reflects who we are, that truly matters to us. So she shares a personal story of making two lists with her husband, a dream list of achievements and a ingredients for joy list, which includes time, rest, connection, presence. They realized that chasing the first list would cost them the second, that the joy would not be would be missing or would be in less quantity. So they chose the second list, joy. So in the conclusion, Brown brings everything together. Wholehearted living is not about perfection, it's about choosing connection again and again as imperfect people. Now, look at the first final scenes of the novel. The first proposal was built on supposed to. Darcy was supposed to marry well, Elizabeth was supposed to be grateful. The second proposal is built on choice. Elizabeth has let go of self doubt. She does not need rescue. She does not need completion. And when Lady Catherine tries to intimidate her into submission, Elizabeth does something extraordinary. She calmly refuses. She claims her right to choose her own future. When Darcy arrives, he comes differently. No pride, no superiority, only humility and respect. And Elizabeth accepts, not from need, but from strength. She is already whole. She is not seeking to be completed. He is choosing to share her wholeness. The common takeaway is that choosing love from strength means showing up as someone who knows their worth and choosing connection, not dependence. As Brené Brown teaches us, and Jane Austen shows, the greatest gift of imperfection is this. Two imperfect people who have done the work of becoming themselves can finally say, I see you, I know you, and I choose you. With that, I'll hand over the mic to Jasveer, who will share a story related to this. Over to you, Jasveer.
Thank you, Sujata. It's really well said. Yeah, two imperfect people achieving perfectness in their relationship. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it happens finally, provided both of them agree to you know to ignore their imperfections and accept each other for what they are. That's what I feel is important. And an example would be that in many families, we've seen that that people have sibling rivalry. Two siblings, maybe brothers, maybe sisters. Take for example, two brothers who have been very close to each other and have been there for each other, but for some reason they realize that a time will come when there is a matter of property, especially where the entire urge of being able to control more. It's a matter of controlling more and having more over the property rights, and that kind of greed comes into the minds of the brothers, and then they slowly start distancing themselves and having differences, and it can get pretty nasty if they move away. And it is possible that those brothers, there have been instances where brothers have stopped talking to each other, have stopped communicating, the families have moved apart, just because of that simple idea that who should get more share out of the property. And this can become a very sad situation where even the family members cannot interact because the heads of the family, as in the brothers, are not talking to each other. And over years, the bitterness can get very difficult. But I know of a family who has gone through this, and then there has been a situation when the older brother had a cardiac arrest, and then his younger brother, who was having a lot of difference with him over property and over all the wealth of the family, rushed to his aid, and he was there during the entire hospitalization of his older brother, and he took care of him. He was serving him and was always around to take care of him. And that's when when the older brother realized that what was happening to them was just an ego struggle. And when it was time for them to be there for each other, his younger brother was there to take care of him and to aid his recovery. And over a period of time, they grew back those feelings of love, because love doesn't disappear. It's always there. It's just that it gets covered by, layers of ego and anger and control and, power games. Finally, the love does emerge, and now those brothers are back together and they have forgiven each other. So all this is possible, and I believe it's just a matter of time and a matter of understanding between two individuals. So now I'd like to hand over to Dr. Geet, to Shritapa, to conclude today's session. Thank you.
Jasmeet, can you just repeat? Now I want to hand over to Shrita.
So now I would like to hand over to Shritapa to conclude today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasbir. That was really insightful. That yes, misunderstandings happen in relationship, and what we need to do, and both need to do, is to communicate and solve the misunderstanding, or bring it to a situation where we at least have that bond, because love is above everything. So, with this, I conclude today's conversation, and we end these two books here. Hope you have loved the insightful conversation today, and may many benefit from this. So, people who are listening to us, BWB Awards for 2026 has started, and this is a new initiative from Team BWB. If you are an author or a poet, don't forget to register yourself, because we are looking for nominations, and it is open till 14th of April 2026. So go register yourself, and I wish everyone a great success, and I would love to see the winners. So best of luck. Don't forget to register in the registration link given in the episode description. So see you there, and tata, bye bye, take care.